Hey everyone, Alex back with another video. This is sort of a redo of a video that I already filmed, but I wasn't really happy with how it came out. So I'm going back and I'm refilming this. So my order is different from how it was when I originally filmed that video. So if I seem off, then please forgive me. As I mean, you guys know, before even clicking on this, I'm a massive Eminem fan. He was my favorite art. He's my favorite rapper. He's the reason I listen to hip hop as much as I do. He's arguably my favorite artist, probably more so than Stevie Wonder for those who are regular viewers to the channel. Although Songs in the Key of Life is still my favorite album of all time. All in all, probably listen to Eminem loads, much more, especially last year. You know, in the midst of like all the lockdowns and stuff and everything that was going on. But yeah, so I've decided to sit down and rank all of his studio albums in 2021. My lovely fiance, who's normally in the background of my videos, she went out of her way and bought me, basically helped me fill my Eminem collection with all the albums that I was missing. So that's how I'm able to do this. I'm able to go through, listen to all his albums again, and kind of just pick which ones are my favorites. Now, there is one album missing from this because I don't have a physical copy of it, because I don't think there's any official vinyl pressings, and originally his first album, Infinite, which is gonna come in as my least favorite Eminem album here, so I don't mind talking about it. The original cassette is like on Discogs, I think, without even looking, the last time I did check, the original cassette was about £4 grand. I know they go at least £1,000, but the last time I checked, there was one on there. There was only one on there. It was like £4 grand. It's ridiculous because he only did 1,000 copies, so I'm not surprised there. But anyway, let's get on with this because I'm 3 minutes in and still haven't actually shown you any albums. I've just talked about Infinite, which, like I said, is my coming in at the bottom of this list because out of all the albums, it doesn't really feel like an Eminem album, like Eminem as we know. He's got a much softer voice, a much softer flow. I mean, his flow's still brilliant. His flow's still at the top. Is not quite at the top, and you can tell that it's still very restricted in terms of what he can do or what he can talk about, the topics he can talk about, and he hasn't really dug into his battle rap roots as much as he did later on in his later projects, where he just disses everybody, and you can tell that he feels very what I'm not looking for like the word restricted again because it sounds repetitive, but hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about, where he doesn't quite give it everything he's got, because he knows his album's only gonna get 1,000 pressings, like privately. It's not a major label, so he doesn't want to do his best material for the album, but he still wants to at least try. And while he still did try, which I'm giving him credit for, it's his shortest album with 11 tracks, and it's just his softest album because he does, like I said, he just doesn't feel like himself on the album. So with that, Infinite comes in at the bottom. Next up, Revival. If you're a regular viewer to the channel, I have trashed this album time and time again. don't need to trash it again. But I will say this album, as I was re-listening to it, it's better than I thought, which is why I've put it above Infinite. The album, again, it still feels forced, because if you remember, back in February of 2017, Eminem leaked a track listing on his Instagram, which had featured artists like 2 Chainz and Chance the Rapper. And then a couple of days later, or even 24 hours later, that track list was taken down. And we heard nothing from him until about October, November of 2018, or 2017, excuse me, when when the song Walk on Water featuring Beyonce came out, which I'm still not that keen on myself, but Believe, which is track 2, is really good. River with Ed Sheeran's better than I remember. Still can't stand the song Remind Me, which of course features samples I Love Rock and Roll by Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. Framed, however, track 12 is hands down the best track on this whole album. It reminds me of what I love about Eminem, and it single-handedly saves this album. And I mean, some of the verses are great on this album. It's just a shame a lot of the hooks and choruses don't match up so well. And this is you can tell it's definitely the last time Eminem wants to work with Rick Rubin on this album. I don't know what happened in the label with this. I don't know, or with his original track listing. I don't know if changed his mind about putting that album out and put it on the back burner. He wasn't happy with the album in the end, or if the label said, no, you're not putting that album out, we want part 3 to Recovery and Relapse and Recovery. So he pumped this album out in between the months of February and when it eventually came out at the end of December in 2017. But yeah, this album definitely is not Eminem's best. But out of all his major label albums, definitely his worst, because this has a lot of flaws on it. Mainly the fact that there's no other featured rappers on this album whatsoever. I don't know if that lets it down at all, but I would have loved to have seen that track between Eminem and Chance the Rapper. I think it'd have been amazing, but for what it's worth, this is what we get. So there it is, Eminem's Revival. Comes in at number 10. I should have known that, really. Number 9. Brace yourselves, because most of you are about to have your jaw smacked or hit the floor and faint. Encore at 9. I know. Compared to his other albums, it is superior. But the reason that this album comes in at number 9 is because listening back, it kind of has the feel of 2 different albums, mainly because 6 months before this album dropped, half the original tracks leaked online. So Eminem went back and recorded half an album, which is why it kind of feels like 2 albums, because he wouldn't have been in the same mindset that he was in when he originally recorded Encore, and so a lot of the tracks would have been different. But this album does have a lot of people's favourite tracks, like Mockingbird and Like Toy Soldiers are songs that a lot of people know. Evil Deeds, which opens the album after a skit called Curtains Up, is incredible. Just Lose It as it goes, the lead single, is pretty good. Just an overall still really good album, still superior in comparison to the next like 3 or 4 albums on this list, but just because it feels like 2 different studio albums entirely in this one album, that's what I'm marking it down at number 9 for. But don't take anything away from this album, it's still really, really good. It's just the fact that, because like I keep saying, he had to go back 6 months before the album's release date and record at least maybe another half an album. So not being in the same mindset, it does feel like 2 albums, and that's the only reason that I'm marking it down to number 9. If it was any different, like if we got that original album we were supposed to get, maybe it would be in the top 4 or 5, but it's coming in number 9. Number 8, I'm going to change my order here slightly. I'm going to go with the Marshall Mathers LP2 for number 8. Main reason being because a lot of these tracks now don't stand out to me. Bad Guy, Rhyme or Reason, which are technically the first 2 full tracks on here, not including the skit, are absolutely incredible. Rhyme or Reason is probably my favourite track on this whole album. And then the last 5 tracks on here are also really good as well. The Monster, which features Rihanna, So Far. Love Game featuring Kendrick. Headlights featuring Nate Roos. And then Evil Twin. Those last 5 tracks are probably the best way Eminem's ever ended any of his albums. And trust me when I say that is a strong save for this album. The only reason I'm marking it to number 8 is because every track between track 4 and track 11 really doesn't stand out. I mean, you've got Berserk, which sounds like an old school 80s Beastie Boys track. Rap God, which is just him trying to prove he can rap fast. Brainless, I guess, isn't a bad song, it's just not memorable. Stronger Than I Was is Eminem singing for the most part, which was good when he was recording the Eminem Show, but is really not good here. Survival just feels like he's trying to make Want Back Down Part 2. Yeah, a lot of this album just doesn't hold up. But like I said, really, if you take out everything between track 4 and track 11 and kind of made a 7-track EP out of the tracks that I mentioned and that I really like, it'd be really good. So yeah, Marshall Mathers LP2 comes in at number 8. At number 7, I'm doing Relapse. Now, although I do have a lot of memories with this, if you go back and listen to it, I do still think all the tracks hold up quite well compared to what the album's about and the overall feel of it. But a lot of the jokes in the album have died down over time. A lot of these tracks are not really talked about anymore. I mean, Beautiful, I guess, is talked about, and that's really it. Bagpipes from, but I will give a shout out to the songs 3 AM, Insane, Bagpipes from Baghdad, Must Be the Ganja, and Underground. Oh, and Crack a Bottle, which are all songs on this album that stand out to me really well. It's just a real shame of a lot of these tracks nowadays. You listen to them, they maybe don't hold up so well, either on the production or the fact that the jokes have just landed flat. They may have hit the first time or first 2 or 3 times around, but now that it's kind of just like, okay, now the joke's over. Yeah, Relapse from 2009 is coming in at number 7 for me, which is a shame because that, when it comes down to favourites, that's an album I really hold highly with memories and nostalgia I have, but because that's really the first time I listened to Eminem properly was that album and another album I'll talk about in a little bit. But as far as it goes, I'm sorry, Relapse is just one of them albums. So where are we at now? Is it number 6? Yeah, number 6. Kamikaze. I know, 28, the album followed Revival, and it really did do an improvement on Eminem's career. Just when I thought it was over for him, he brings this out of nowhere, I might add. about 10 months after Revival came out, maybe 8 months or so after. But he opens this album with a track called The Ringer, which doesn't have a particular chorus, it's just him going over a beat and sort of doing what he does best and dissing everybody that he can name. Greatest is not really a song I remember that well, but Lucky You is a song I remember really well with Joyner Lucas. Really incredible. Stepping Stone's another track I really remember. As Is Not Alike with Royce da 5'9". Fool is great, and Venom from the motion picture Venom is great. A lot of these the reason I'm not putting this album any higher is because I really don't like the songs Nice Guy or Good Guy, which both feature Jesse Reyes. I'm not a massive fan of those tracks. They work with the album, but as a whole, I'm not a massive fan of them. If I could, I would skip them or just take them off the album completely. Yeah, it will make the album shorter than Infinite, but this album is Eminem's second shortest album outside of Infinite anyway, so it wouldn't really make that much of a difference. And he's also obviously copied the cover from the Beastie Boys, so there is that one, but still a good album nonetheless. Right, into the top 5, and kicking off the top 5 is actually Recovery, and I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one, but I really do think this album holds a lot of memories for me, and that's really it. The singles off of this, Not Afraid, Love the Way You Lie, No Love, and Spacebound, them 4 singles I hold in high regard, as well as the song Cinderella Man I really hold in high regard. I'm trying to think what else I remember. Went Back Down, really good. Talking to Myself featuring Kobe, Seduction, Almost Famous, Going Through Changes, which does sample the song Changes by Black Sabbath. Absolutely incredible album. Like I said, it's really just because of the memories and the fact that this is the first Eminem album I listened to all the way through, because this actual album came out around the time I was getting into Eminem for the first time, so of course it would have been the first one I listened to all the way through outside of his greatest hits. But yeah, so obviously with memories and stuff, nostalgic reasons, I'm putting this album at number 5, because I cannot fault this album in any way. Maybe a couple of tracks like So Bad and 25 to Life, which are on here, but as a whole album I think it really works, and a lot of the tracks still sound good and I remember a lot of them, so that's why I'm putting it here at number 5. Number 4, Music to Be Murdered By, Eminem's most recent project. Obviously I'm not talking about the B-sides because that's kind of an extension on this. I'm not including that, I'm just including the main versions of the album, how they came out originally. And I'm also, as you can tell, I'm obviously not including D12 or Bad Meets Evil or any compilations or anything like that. But Music to Be Murdered By, phenomenal, absolutely incredible. You've got an intro kind of skit kind of track to begin with, and then Unaccommodating opens this album. Brilliant track. Actually, I'd say every track on here really good. You Gon' Learn with Royce da 5'9" and White Gold, Those Kinds of Nights with Ed Sheeran even, Darkness, Godzilla, Ya Ya, Stepdad, Lock It Down, No Regrets. Just an absolutely incredible album. In fact, all 4 of these next albums I would say are 5 out of 5 albums for Eminem. And this is Eminem back on his top form in my opinion. I listened to this album probably more than I listened to any of the albums I've mentioned before. I've probably spun this more than I've spun Recovery at this point. I love this album so much. Yeah, there it is. Music to Be Murdered By at number 4. At number 3, now you can say all you want about this. This is the Slim Shady LP. This is his major label debut with tracks like My Name Is, Guilty Conscience, which I'm not actually a massive fan of listening back over it now. I still think it's a good song, don't get me wrong, but not my favourite when it comes to Eminem. Role Model's great, Rock Bottom is great, the song It's Bad Meets Evil is great, Don't Give a Fuck is great, Brain Damage even is great, If I Had. Just a really, really good album, a solid major label debut, and the album that actually put Eminem on the map. I'm just putting it at number 3 because, in my personal opinion, how I feel about these albums, I think his next, the two I'm going to talk about at 1 and 2, I think are just a little bit better. But obviously, out of these 3, everyone's got their opinion on which one they think is the best one. But coming in at number 2, I'm doing the Eminem Show. Fantastic album, might I add. You've got a skit to open it, and then White America. It goes straight into the song White America, and then Business, Clean Out My Closet, and Square Dance are all great for this first side. Without Me, which was the lead single off of this, another single, Sing for the Moment, which samples Aerosmith's Dream On. Superman is great on this. Till I Collapse is great. My Dad's Gone Crazy. Haley's song is on this, which is the other song I mentioned or talked about earlier when I say Eminem sings for most of it and then does a little rap near the end. Haley's song's the other one. The only reason I'm marking this one down is because to number 2 is because I do think his best album ever made. While I may listen to this album, the songs off of this a little bit more than I listen to the songs off of the album I put at number 1, I personally think the Marshall Mathers LP is his greatest album ever, and I even have a deluxe CD copy just for B-sides and the music videos and instrumentals for the singles, because man, this album's great. Again, a public service announcement opens it and then goes into Kill You, Stan, which is one of the best songs he's ever written, The Way I Am, The Real Slim Shady, Remember Me's fantastic, I'm Back is fantastic, Marshall Mathers is fantastic, Drug Ballad, probably my favourite song off the whole album, incredible, Bitch Please Part 2 is incredible, Criminal, Under the Influence, man, every song on here, in fact, makes this hard for, it's going to be a hard album for Eminem to top, for sure, but as far as it goes, this is definitely, no matter what you think of, no matter which album you play the most from Eminem, I don't know many people that don't say this is the best album he's ever made. Everyone's got a favourite Eminem album of theirs, like I said, out of maybe the top 3, or even Encore might be thrown in there for a favourite, or his latest album if they're a fairly new fan. But of old school Eminem fans like myself, most people, I'd say about 75% to 80% of people that I've met who talk about Eminem all say this is the best album he's ever made. And with that all said and done, guys, that's it for this video. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. Again, sorry about the weird camera angle. I'm still trying to work it out in here. I'm going to work it with the camera. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning back into the channel. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new here. And I'll see you all again very soon.